I also want to talk about the Public Transit Infrastructure Fund item that is on the agenda today and has been the discussion in the media in the last day or so. Last summer, the federal government, and I was very gratified they did, and thankful because they were keeping their word, in announcing an unprecedented partnership with the City of Toronto to make our transit system faster and stronger and safer and more accessible for everyone in every part of the city. The funding is making a difference as we speak. There are projects that have been proceeded with, buses that have been purchased, and so on, as a result of the federal money making it easier for us to do so. We are investing in a state of good repair for the TTC that is much more acceptable. We are strengthening the subway lines, strengthening streetcar and bus systems. There is behind-the-scenes work happening every day that you don't see to maintain the TTC, and it's very necessary work. We're improving accessibility through new escalators and elevators in the TTC stations, purchase of more wheel-trans vehicles to take account of better service levels and higher service requirements, and making it easier to get on and off buses across the system. So this is making it better for the elderly, for people in wheelchairs, and even people with strollers. And you would have seen some of the more modern buses, more modern accessible buses, and more reliable buses, because they're newer, rolling out in every part of the city, literally hundreds of new buses. When the fund was announced last summer, we knew we were embarking on an ambitious schedule of repair, renewal, enhancement, and expansion of the TTC. And as I said, I was very happy that the federal government under Prime Minister Trudeau had kept its word in terms of the funding that was going to flow, and had the fact that Toronto has transit needs that are far in excess of any other city in the country, and it was based on ridership. But the federal government did require cities, including Toronto, to spend this money within 2 years, and there's a limit as to what percentage of the money can be spent in the second year. A little over a year later, we now find ourselves in a situation, and as do other cities across the country, where cities are grappling with the tight deadline as we work to deliver on the much-needed projects. And of course, we do not want to leave this money on the table. So we're asking the federal government for an extension, as I understand are others, and we hope that they accept this request so that we can continue to responsibly do this work and make the city's transit system stronger and more reliable and more modern and more accessible. So we will obviously put forward that request in a formal way today, as we've done informally already, and we'll continue to be working with other cities and with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to really just discuss what I think is a very practical kind. So I'm happy now to answer your questions. Pardon me.
What does it mean for the projects, or what projects could be in jeopardy if we don't get the extension for that project?
Well, that is a question that doesn't have an answer, in the sense that what we're going to try to do if we can't get the extension, we're going to work hard to get the extension, and I think it's very important, and I think it is not an unreasonable kind of request, recognizing the federal government faces some accounting rules and so forth that govern some of this. We're going to try to get the extension, but if we don't, it means we may have to try and sort of telescope some of the time frame. It may mean we have to exclude some phases of some of these projects. So I can't give you a list and say, well, this won't happen, if they don't give the extension, or that won't happen. Our objective at this stage is to get the extension so that we can invest the money. We just have a little longer and a little more flexibility to do it.
Why is the city not going to meet the deadline?
Well, let me put it to you this way, give an analogy that I think people would understand. And that is that if your grandmother, left you $10,000 tomorrow and said you could do some renovations to your house, but that they had to be done within 30 days and so on, if you just think about the task that's involved in going out and finding a contractor, deciding what renovations you want to do, getting the contractor on board and finishing the work in 30 days, I mean, people would find that to be a very difficult challenge. And so when it came to the reality of actually looking at all the projects that we had, and we certainly, as you know, have no shortage of projects, it was just a difficult logistical undertaking to do it. I'll give you another example. I mean, while purchasing more buses actually is one of the things we think we might be able to do in order to make use of some of this money, you will not be surprised to know every city in Canada is suddenly out there trying to purchase buses from what are a limited number of suppliers at the same time because of the influx of all this money that's matching what we're going to put up. And so it was just a logistical challenge, and I think that one of the responsibilities we have as a city council is when you're going to spend money like this and invest it, you do it wisely. You know, not do it irresponsibly simply for the sake of saying, well, we just put it all out there on anything so that we could get the federal money. So it's a combination, I guess, of responsibility, but mostly just logistical challenges in speeding up work, finding the people to do it, going through the procurement process in the time frame that was given, which was quite narrow. And as you'll also know, there was a restriction on how much of it you could push into the second year. I understand, by the way, the federal government was trying to get this money into the system quickly to create jobs and get the repairs going, and I get that and I support that and I laud them for the fact they came forward in this manner. It's just it's turned out to have a consequence for many cities, not just Toronto, that is difficult for us, and we're just being upfront about it in writing this report and making the request we're making.
One last question about the TTC thing. I rode a packed on that streetcar on the way here today, and I'm sure a lot of people on that streetcar would be frustrated at the idea that there could be money left on the table. Should the city be doing more to come up with like a priority list for this when there's the money that gets put out there?
John, in fairness to us, and of course, you know, I guess if I'm not fair to us, who's going to be? But if in fairness to us, we did that list, and we did a list originally at the beginning. If you go back, the list that's on the table now was a list that we thought, you know, we could fund over the course of the 2-year period that was provided for. And it's just turned out, for some of the practical reasons that I talked about, that it's been, you know, less easy, if I can put it that way, to do that than we thought. And we never thought it would be easy. And so, you know, now what we're doing, which I think the taxpayers and the citizens should take some heart from, is that we're working very hard to see if we can get an extension of the date, but also doing everything we can to try and reshape that list so that if we took only phase 1 of a given project and we could fit it in the timetable, that we do that. So we're really trying hard not to leave any money on the table. We just got a report that was a warning, you know, to us that there was some practical difficulties with getting all this done for the sort of very practical reasons that I mentioned. And I don't think it's not a matter of blaming anybody, least of all the federal government, or least of all even our own staff. We have a challenge to responsibly spend this money, and do it as quickly as possible. And sometimes, you know, it just doesn't work out that it's easy to do that. We're going to try and get it fixed. Anything else for today? Great. Well, we'll see you down the hall. And so I say that this first phase of funding, which will see the people of Toronto receive up to $840 million, will make sure that our transit system is reliable, efficient, modern, and safe. And so it means, for example, that we can upgrade the signals on Line 2, the Bloor-Danforth subway, that has ridership itself of more than 500,000 people every single day, which, with much overdue upgrades to this line, including a modern signal system, we can run more trains and introduce the new subway cars that can carry dramatically more people. This funding also means we can buy new buses for use on our highly traveled bus networks. As people in Toronto well know, from Finch to Dufferin to Don Mills to Islington, some of Toronto's bus lines carry the highest numbers in North America. And these people deserve the best service we can provide, and this money is going to help us to do that. It means we can get on with more of the work that we need to do to make all of our TTC stations accessible with escalators and elevators, so people with wheelchairs and strollers and those perhaps just a bit older can access the system with ease as we want them to do. And it means that we can do the much-needed repairs and revitalizations that will speed service across the network, prevent our systems from shutting down, and this will reduce delays and make sure that our customers can get better around this big city. When it comes to these projects, Toronto's priorities and our needs have long been clear, and we're happy to have a federal government which respects the proper role of Canada's cities as true partners, the ones best able to identify the transit projects that can have the biggest positive impact for our residents. Your commitment, Prime Minister, and that of your government to fund up to 50% of these projects is the beginning of an important new era for Canadian cities, and we look forward to working with you and our provincial partners and other cities across Canada to put this commitment to good use. With this strong relationship in place, the money can flow quickly, it can flow to where it is needed most, and it can make a huge difference across our city. We'll be working closely with Prime Minister Trudeau, with Minister Sohi and their team, including the members of Parliament that are here today with whom we've been working already, as I said, as we go on to prepare the long-term funding model that will invest in Toronto's transit network and its expansion, including projects like Smart Track and the Scarborough Subway, which already have in place separate funding commitments, and other important priorities like the Relief Line and the Waterfront LRT. Today is a day when we see happening what the people want to see happening. All three governments working productively, cooperatively, and respectfully together. And the province has been an excellent partner for us on public transportation as well. In this case, we're all working together, as we should be each and every day, to get things done. And in this case, that means the much-funded and very much welcome transit funding to make sure that we can move ahead with proper public transportation in Canada's largest city. Thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you to your government.